I used to tell my friends I hit the jackpot, that I'd married the perfect man. He was kind, thoughtful, stable. He cooked on weekends. He folded laundry without being asked. He listened, actually listened. There was never a cruel word, never a raised voice, never a single moment where I doubted his love. And still, I ruined it. I cheated on him. Not because I was mistreated, not because I felt unloved, but because somewhere deep inside I started to believe that comfort meant boredom, that reliability meant lack of passion, that something was missing, even if I couldn't name what. And now, I'm alone, and he's not. And every day I live in the quiet aftermath of the man I broke and the life I threw away. My name is Leah. I'm 34, and I'm the kind of woman people love to hate. Because what I did doesn't come with excuses, not the kind that make you feel better anyway. I married Daniel when I was 28. We'd been together 3 years. I knew by our second date that he was the kind of man who didn't play games. He called when he said he would. He remembered my favorite tea. He offered me safety in a world full of chaos. He was too nice, my friend Jenna said once, half joking. Don't you ever wish he had a little edge? And back then, I laughed. I said, no, I've had the edge. I want peace. And I meant it. But peace over time becomes invisible. It's not loud. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't thrill you with drama or whiplash you with adrenaline. It just is. And after a while, I started craving the very chaos I once escaped from. It started small. Flirting at work. Smiles that lingered a beat too long. Compliments I knew I didn't need but absorbed anyway. I told myself it was harmless. That I loved my husband. That I wasn't doing anything wrong. But every step I took blurred the line between emotional attention and betrayal. His name was Marcus, a project consultant, confident, charming, the kind of man who made every woman in the room feel like the center of gravity. He wasn't better than Daniel, just different. He was exciting in all the ways Daniel wasn't, spontaneous, bold, vague enough to feel dangerous. I told myself it was just a fantasy. A spark. A temporary itch I'd never actually scratch. And then one night, I did. It was after a conference. Too much wine. A hotel bar that stayed open too late. He walked me to my room. I should have said goodnight. I didn't. It was only one night. One mistake. But it didn't feel like a mistake at the time. It felt like relief. Like stepping out of a role I'd been playing too long. Like remembering a version of myself I hadn't seen in years. The guilt didn't hit until I got home. Daniel met me at the door with a smile and homemade pasta. He poured wine, asked about my trip, kissed me like I'd been gone a year instead of 3 days, and I smiled back. Lied, told him it was great. And that night, when he reached for me in bed, I turned away, said I was tired, and cried silently when he fell asleep with his arm around me. I thought I could bury it. That if I never said anything, it would disappear. That one night didn't define me. That the life we built together was still real. But the thing about secrets is they rot everything they touch. I wish I could say I told him. That I came clean. That I did the right thing. But I didn't. I kept it hidden. And for a while, it seemed like I got away with it. But I hadn't. Because I was changing. And Daniel saw it. He started noticing little things. The way I pulled away from his touch. The way I answered questions with a rehearsed smile. The way I laughed at his jokes, but it never quite reached my eyes anymore. He didn't accuse me. That wasn't his style. He just observed. Quietly. Sadly. Like someone watching a house they built start to crumble and not knowing where the first crack was. And then, one evening, about 3 weeks later, I came home and found him sitting at the kitchen table with his laptop open. He didn't look angry, just tired. "Who's Marcus?" he asked, without even looking up. My heart stopped. What? I replied, my voice too high, too defensive. He looked at me then, not with rage, but with something worse. Resignation. I read the messages, Leah. You left your iCloud open on the desktop. I wanted to deny it, to claim he misunderstood, but I couldn't. I saw the way his hands were shaking, even though his voice was steady. I only read enough to know what happened, he said. I didn't go looking. I didn't want to find this. I sat down slowly. My mouth was dry. It was one time, I whispered. He closed the laptop gently. That doesn't help. Silence stretched between us like a chasm. I wanted him to yell, to demand explanations, to throw something, but Daniel wasn't like that. Instead, he stood, walked to the sink, and poured himself a glass of water. I don't want to be with someone who sees kindness as a flaw, he said softly, who confuses stability with stagnation, who trades a lifetime for a thrill. Tears burned in my eyes. I didn't mean... I know, he interrupted, voice still calm. But you did. I begged, apologized, fell apart on the kitchen floor, promised therapy, transparency, change, anything. But Daniel wasn't trying to make a point. He wasn't trying to hurt me. He had simply reached a truth. He deserved better. And he was no longer willing to settle for being tolerated by someone who craved chaos more than character. He moved out that weekend. He packed with a kind of heartbreaking efficiency. No drama, no drawn-out arguments, just quiet removal, box after box. Until the apartment felt like a museum of everything I lost. I didn't tell my friends the full story at first. I said we were taking space, that things had gotten complicated. But the lie didn't last. And once the truth came out, so did the judgment. And I couldn't blame them. He treated you like gold, my sister said, disgusted. And you threw it away for what? A dopamine rush? I didn't have an answer, because she was right. The months after Daniel left were hollow. I kept expecting the guilt to fade, for life to resume its rhythm, but it didn't. Everything felt out of sync. The coffee didn't taste right. Music sounded flat. I kept checking my phone out of habit, hoping to see his name, even though I knew he wouldn't reach out. And when I realized he'd blocked my number, I sat on the bathroom floor for an hour, clutching my phone and trying not to scream. I thought I could explain it all away to myself. That I was just bored. That I made a mistake. That I'd been emotionally restless. But the truth was uglier. I was selfish. And Daniel had been collateral damage in my search for excitement I didn't need. Meanwhile, he was thriving. I saw it in bits and pieces through mutual friends and social media. A new apartment. Bright. Open. Filled with plants and sunlight. A new job. Or at least a new title. Something that looked more prestigious than before. And eventually, a new woman. Her name was Alina. The first time I saw them together, it was a photo on Instagram. A hike. She was smiling, sweat on her forehead, hair in a messy braid. Daniel had his arm around her, and he looked at peace, lighter, as if leaving me had let him finally breathe again. I wanted to hate her, but I couldn't. She seemed kind, natural, the kind of woman who didn't chase chaos, the kind of woman who probably saw Daniel for who he really was and didn't take it for granted. That was the worst part. Knowing that he was finally being loved the way he deserved, just not by me. My own life, by comparison, was unraveling. Work felt meaningless. I'd stopped going out. The people I used to call friends slowly drifted away, unsure how to be around me when I was a living reminder that stability can be shattered by choice. I tried dating, briefly. But every man I met felt either like a distraction or a comparison, and none of them measured up. Not because Daniel was perfect, but because he was real. He had depth, patience, integrity. And I hadn't realized how rare that was until I no longer had it. I replayed the night it all ended over and over in my head. Not the night with Marcus. That was a blur of poor decisions and selfishness. But the night Daniel confronted me, the quiet strength in his voice, the sorrow in his eyes, the moment he chose himself over me because I didn't, it haunted me. Still does. I think we all want to believe that love can survive anything, that if someone truly loves you, they'll forgive even your worst mistakes. But sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes respect matters more. And when you lose that, there's no coming back. I lost the man who would have given me the world. Not because he stopped loving me, but because I showed him I didn't value what he gave. And that's the kind of loss you don't recover from. I still wear my wedding ring sometimes. Not because I'm trying to win him back. That door is closed. But because it reminds me of who I was, and who I never want to be again. A symbol, not of marriage, but of consequence. Of the day I learned that not every apology comes with redemption. Some just come with silence. It's been over a year now. Daniel and Alina are still together. I heard through a mutual friend that they're talking about moving in, that she's close to his sister, that they've gone on trips together. I haven't seen another ring on her finger yet, but I know it's coming. And when it does, I'll smile. I'll wish them well. And then I'll probably cry into my pillow at 2 a.m. because grief doesn't care how much time has passed. It just sits quietly in the background, waiting for a memory, a song, a scent. Something small to bring the ache rushing back. I've changed. I go to therapy. First journal. I've spent hours picking apart the moments that led to my decision. Not to excuse it, but to understand it. I've had to face the fact that I was uncomfortable with being loved well, that I equated peace with stagnation, that I was addicted to validation more than I was invested in truth. It's hard doing that kind of excavation of yourself. Harder still when there's no one to tell you it's okay. No one holding your hand through the fallout. Just you, your mistakes, and the quiet work of becoming someone better. Sometimes I imagine what I'd say if I ever saw Daniel again. Not to beg, not to apologize. I already did that once, and he didn't respond. But just to tell him I get it now. That I see what I couldn't back then. That I understand why he walked away and that he was right to do so. But he doesn't need to hear that. And I don't need to say it. Because this story isn't about getting him back. It's about learning the cost of not recognizing value when it's staring you in the face. Of how too nice was never the problem. I was the storm in a man's quiet sky. And instead of appreciating the stillness, I brought in thunder. There's no happy ending here. Not for me. But there's truth. And there's growth. And maybe that's something. If you're listening to this and you're with someone good, someone kind, steady, boring even, look closer. That boring might be peace. That predictability might be love showing up every day. Don't trade a lifetime for a spark. Sparks fade. Peace stays. I learned that too late. But maybe you don't have to.